The Secrets of Middle-earth is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
You're listening to The Secrets of Middle-earth, where we discuss the hidden themes and deeper layers found in the works of J.R.R. Tolkien, whether in his writings or in any of the media derived from them. And boy, do we have some media derived from them today for you. I'm Jeff Haecker, and joining me today is Thomas Salerno. Hey, Thomas.
Hello, Jeff.
How's it going?
Pretty good. We've got some fan films to discuss today.
Yeah, and sadly we don't have the third member of our fellowship, Pat, today, to be cautiously optimistic, so we'll have to try to do our best to provide that in his stead. And before we get to those, be sure to follow The Secrets of Middle-earth in Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, or any podcast directory or app. And you can find us on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or on X, where we are at SQPN, or on Instagram, where we are at StarQuest Network. And don't forget, you can get your own official Secrets of Middle-earth merch, including our awesome t-shirt, at sqpn.com/merch. It's a great way for you to support the show and show your love for Tolkien and his wonderful world of Middle-earth. So, as we kind of alluded to, normally we'd be baking some Turin bar cookies today, but we're having a little bit of a pause in that discussion. But don't worry, the oven is preheating for those, and we have a little bit of sample today for everyone. As I kind of said, we're going to be discussing some fan films, and these are actually they're more on the short film side of things. We've done in past episodes on Born of Hope, which was about an hour or so, a little bit longer than an hour. That was the one on Arathorn, Aragorn's father, and how in his story. And then we did The Hunt for Gollum, which of course is the fan film about the Hunt for Gollum that will now be made into at least one movie by Peter Jackson. Hopefully not more, but we shall see what ends up happening there. And I'll post these, by the time you're listening to this, I'll post these on Discord to hopefully help everyone find them. But if you've not, take a pause and go watch these, or just listen to our discussion. I'm going to do my best to provide the links here, but they'll also be in our show notes or on the Discord. So today we're doing three of them. The first one is Halifirien, and I keep misspelling this, so I've got it written down here, but it's called Halifirien, the Hallowed Mountain. And this one's about 32 minutes long, and the easiest way I found to find this one, it's actually split up into 4 parts of 8 minutes each on YouTube, is to go to actually their page and find it there, but it's youtube.com/user/Halifirien the movie, and Halifirien is spelled HALIF as in Frank, IRIEN as in Nancy. So Halifirien the movie is the username, or you can just search that on YouTube. I found that if you miss a letter, you bring up some weird AI generated results, like AI film type of things. So that was interesting. You can also, these are also all linked on if you go to Tolkien Gateway and search fan films, they'll also be on there. The second one is The Legend of Gurthang, and this is a short film that's only 12 minutes, and I didn't find this on YouTube, but it's actually, they have their own website. It's www.jaredbeltfilms.com/ and then each letter has a dash between it, The Legend of Gurthang, which is GURTHANG.html. So that is actually, I guess, the filmmaker's personal website that they have other things on. And then the last one, this one actually is probably the easiest to find because it's just one 20-minute film on YouTube, but it's The Horn of Gondor, and it's about 20 minutes, and the YouTube channel is Rosenthal, ROSENTHAL ZS, or if you search Horn of Gondor, that brings it up. So these are the three we're going to be reviewing today. There's actually a few more. There's one about actually Tuor and Gondolin, but we thought we would save that one until we've kind of gotten to that in the Silmarillion. So there's a few other ones. So there, next time we're reviewing fan films, you might hear some of these. There's actually, we were talking beforehand, there's a 3-hour one called The Peril of the Shire, or Peril to the Shire, about Rose Cotton, I guess, during the events of the Lord of the Rings. So
I can't believe that.
so I don't know what that one all is involved, but something to watch one day. So all right, and before we get to the main event here, there's a little bit of news that I just thought. Speaking of films, it looks like the Hunt for Gollum movie is being pushed back to December of 27. So a little over, so about 2.5 years at this point. I did read that the script is close to being done. So hopefully, like I said, that stays on track, which is, I think it was originally supposed to be like next year or something, which is a very quick turnaround. So hopefully they're spending additional time in the script writing and production and to make it a better film. And hopefully one that we have fun with because it's good, not have fun with for other reasons. So
right, yeah, let's not have any weird like romance thing in that, no
exactly.
Gollum romance, please. Yeah,
exactly. And for those keeping score on your bingo card, that's your contractual reference there. So
yeah, my not so veiled reference to the Hobbit. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna just take these in chunks. So the first one, Halifirien. I'll read the little kind of brief summary, and then we'll talk about it. And this one's kind of fun. It's I think I have them in the order of quality, and this one is definitely the lowest quality, but this one is really like a home movie that a couple of kids. I think it was filmed by like an adult, but like the actors are all like kids or teenagers, and so it's definitely like a home movie type of thing. But this one is during the time of the War of the Ring, a young boy named Eredor will face his own quest to light the last beacon and signal to Rohan that Gondor calls for aid. High in the mountain of Halifirien, overlooking the border between Gondor and Rohan, the Wardens keep their watch for the ancient signal that will call the men of the West to unite against Mordor. As Sauron's shadow grows over Middle-earth, orc warbands maraud further into the free lands, and one night invade the hallowed mountain upon which the Wardens keep their watch. As the young boy Eredor and his brother are on guard, they hear the noise of the battle from further down the mountain. Do they go and help their friends or stay and keep their sworn duty? Eredor will face the loss of those most dear to him as he is hunted down by the bloodthirsty orcs and forced to confront his fears alone. So, as we were kind of saying, this one was definitely like a home movie vibe. I think it was filmed in like 2007 or something. But what did you think of this one, Thomas?
Okay, like first off, as someone who forced their dad to film his like homemade movies, I can respect what these kids did. Like you said, it was clearly a bunch of kids and their camcorder, clearly having a blast. I do have some things I liked about it. I've got a list here. One, I liked the very newsreel vibe of the intro. It's not very Middle Earth, but it was, I just liked it for some reason, that it seemed like a Middle Earth newsreel. It had, like with the sort of like, over the top narration and the. Yeah,
it's like almost like in the Clone Wars, the like intro, like War in Gondor, and it's a very dramatic thing. And it's actually, like I said, this one definitely is more on the camp side. But again, it's really just, it's more home movie. But that was an interesting way to like, that you can do an intro without having to like, because of course they don't have a very limited budget here.
Limited budget.
Like no special effects or
no
any
budget.
kinds of.
Like, yeah.
Well, really
I mean,
budget.
Like, one thing I'll say is that I don't know how they got permission, if they got permission to do, for wherever they were filming, to do that fire catapult thing.
Yeah.
That was really impressive and dangerous and insane.
Well, I was wondering, was that a miniature or was that like an actual, like, I'm assuming it had to be like a miniature type of thing, or
it was hard to tell because it was so dark.
Yeah, Pat might say it's hard to see what's going on because it was
hard
so
to
dark,
see what's going on. Yeah, I liked that. I actually thought some of the camera work and the scale of what was going on was pretty ambitious for just a bunch of friends with their camcorder. Like I liked that there was a variety of different angles with the shots. When I could see something, I noticed that there was a variety of different camera angles and perspectives and stuff like that. There was a neat perspective trick that they did. Did you notice, to make the troll actor look huge?
Oh yeah, the troll.
Because like when he was fighting the troll one-on-one towards the end, they did this neat perspective trick so that the troll actually looks giant compared to the kid. So I liked that. I think I had one other thing. Oh, this is kind of a criticism, but it was also hilarious. The ridiculous blood stains and dripping down over the credits. I'm like, what is this? A Hammer Studios Dracula movie? That
Yeah, that was. I mean, you see what they're going for, because to spoil quote unquote the end of this thing. It's he's the last kind of these wardens left, and he's trying to light the beacon to call Rohan for aid. And I don't know if this is technically the last one, or if it's just another one in the chain, but
Halifirien is the one on the border of Rohan, so that's like the last.
So it's the last one. Okay, yeah. So if you kind of slot this in with Lord of the Rings, it's like, and imagine this being in that same world. It is important that, because if they didn't light at least in the movies, if they didn't light the beacon, there would be no call for aid. Of course, in the book, it's, as we've discussed before, it's bringing the arrow and messenger from Gondor, but this is more the movie verse, which not having really known about either these fan films. Two of them were about Rohan, and we had War of the Rohirrim, and we did a whole Rohan episode, so very Rohan centric this time around.
I thought it would be funny to I wrote these notes in real time as I was watching, and I thought it would be funny to read off some of these. Kid actors, lol, can barely hear anything. Can't tell if color desaturation is intentional or bad lighting. Stunts would be cool if I could see them properly. This scene goes on forever and I still can't see anything. Is that a troll? I can't see it, so who knows? And it kind of goes on.
Yeah, it was. So not having really known or expected what this was, I just turned it on YouTube, and within a few minutes I was like, okay, you get a sense of where you're getting into here. There's not really any surprise about the quality of this thing.
I don't want to be too harsh on it, because like I said, I clearly I would have done this if I was their age.
Yeah,
it was pretty funny.
Yeah, for what it was, I mean, it was pretty good. For the limited resources they had, and because you have Eredor and his brother, who are they're kind of, it starts out they're kind of sitting there talking of they're just kind of bored at their jobs, and I don't know if we're meant to believe that these are in the story they're actually boys, or if it's just that they're actors playing adults. I wasn't really clear.
I think some of the older teenage-looking actors call them boys, but it was difficult to hear. So
right, I guess these are kind of like the squires of, kind of like Pippin in Gondor. He's kind of the squire and kind of sworn to this duty or whatever. But yeah, they're sitting there, they're kind of complaining about they're bored, they don't have enough food, these normal kind of things that, you don't really think of. So there is a little bit, I think there is a little bit of depth there. And then, the orcs attack, and they have to, all the older boys that, because of course you're going to probably staff these beacons with your less seasoned warriors, because you want your strongest warriors there on the front lines in, in Minas Tirith and in Osgiliath and all these places. So
it's like in the movies where they talk about at Helm's Deep, where a lot of the people there are boys and old men.
Yeah. So it kind of made sense. That kind of part did make sense. And I did like Eredor's kind of journey as he's losing everybody one by one. They lose in the night attack, which are very hard to see, and you don't really
can't see
the sword fighting is really, I mean, I think you see a little bit, but a lot of it's more of you see their feet moving around, and that's meant to say they're fighting, and then you see people falling and stuff. And it was kind of funny when one of the scenes of him running away, you see the arrows and they're like slowly like flying at him, but like not close. But
a couple other cool things. I thought that scene near the end where he's running along the cliff side, that was cool.
I want to say they did actually have some good locations. They like it wasn't just in one. Like it could have been in the same like general area, but they actually had a lot of like they had the forest, they had the mountain, and then like you said, the cliffside scene, like where he's running along the cliff for a couple minutes. So I was like, it really does. Cool. It really did look like this could take place in in the Jackson verse. Albeit very very low budget, Jackson verse, but.
And I like when he fell through the floor and he fell through the ground and he ended up like inside the tomb of Elendil.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure that's what that was supposed to be, because in the books, the Halifirien, it means the holy mountain. And that's because it was hallowed by... they swore the oath there, and it's where Elendil's tomb was.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's... Okay, wow.
So that adds more like depth to it,
Yeah, because he falls in, because he's at this point he's like the last survivor. His brother has died, and he's basically trying to survive against these orcs. And like you said, he falls in and he finds this, he finds some armor, and he kind of like he realizes his duty to. What he has to do, because like he knows he's not gonna. I think in the in the context of this, he knows he's not getting out. He knows he's
right.
He's doomed, and so he's like, okay, I'm gonna. If I have to go down, I'm gonna go down doing what we need to do to save the kingdom. And he kind of dons this, and I guess this was after he had because he had fallen in water too at one point and was kind of swimming, and that was a very interesting scene too.
That was terrible.
Because we haven't talked about that. I guess we should do that first. Like he's being chased by orcs, and then I didn't realize it was a troll at first until he's like getting out of the water and fighting it. But like he finds a sword in the water, and he gets out, and it's this troll. But it's like it almost looks like the troll just has like a bag over his head. Like it's like not even really a mask. It's just like this kind of bag, and he just has like a big tree branch type of. And as like a club, like with a little bit, but yeah, like you said, the way they filmed that was kind of interesting with like the forced perspective, kind of like how they actually would have filmed Lord of the Rings with Gandalf and the Hobbits. Like they had to kind of force perspective sometimes to make it look realistic. But yeah, he has this fight with this troll, sword fight against the big troll, and he manages to get away enough and then finds the tomb. And puts on the armor, and he manages to light the beacon before he's, shot. I think he's shot with an arrow, if I'm remembering. And you see his blood kind of dripping down and it's kind of flowing down. Which I think that was in Born of Hope as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
there was kind of a scene of like blood running down like into water or something. When either when Arathorn died or in one of those scenes, I want to say it was something similar, or like there was some kind of river scene. So. These kind of were about the same time, not quite exactly, but they were kind of around the same time. So
at that point, when he dies lighting the beacon, I was like, oh, this is Rogue One. They get the secret message out and everybody dies in the process.
Exactly. And now they're going to make a TV show about these characters and their whole life story.
About like one of the random like rangers is going to get like his own show.
Yeah. So, I mean...
one other thing.
Go ahead.
Part of the music. At first I thought it was weird, but I actually kind of liked the synth electric guitar in some of it. It reminded me of like Castlevania boss music or something.
Yeah. Yeah, so overall, I mean, I don't have much else to say about it, but... Like it was entertaining to watch. I don't know that I'll ever go back and really revisit it, or at least like I might revisit. Like I might actually rewatch the last, because it at least on YouTube it was in these 4 episodes or 4-part chunks of like 8 minutes each. Which is why I linked to go to the like actual YouTube user channel to find, because then you can play them all. And they also look like, I haven't watched them. I may watch them, but it looks like they had some like making of videos, some like short little vignettes, so I might go and check those out. But from what I could tell, I couldn't really find anything about what these people are up to now. So I don't know if they're like, they ever went into any kind of film production or just like they just moved on with their lives. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have anything else to say about this one.
Just that it was a little bit of a nostalgia trip. Just, reminded me of making my really horrible homemade sci-fi movies when I was a kid.
Yeah. All right. Well,
and in case anyone asks, no, I lost those tapes long ago. They don't exist anymore.
Oh man,
sadly.
Well, we'll see. Maybe they'll turn up one day. We'll do an episode reviewing your films there. But all right. So I guess we can move on to the little bit of higher budget section of this podcast for the films. So I figured save Horn of Gondor for last because that was kind of the better of these. But the next one we watched was The Legend of Gurthang, which is, before I wasn't really paying attention, or I didn't really know that this was going to be like they were going to basically tell the story of Turin in some ways. So yeah, so this is the sample of the Turin bar cookies that are coming. So if you really don't want to know, if you're like reading the Silmarillion for the first time, I guess tune away for like skip 10 minutes or so. But this is the story of it's based on the children of Húrin, based on the story of Turin. It's set in the Second Age at the height of the War of the Last Alliance. The story follows a man from the kingdom of Arnor on his lone mission to the far island of Tol Morwen to find and retrieve Gurthang, a legendary sword of great power once owned by Turin, son of Húrin. So this, like I said, this is more based on the actual Tolkien legendarium. Right off the bat, I have to say it was very odd hearing a flat American accent acting a Tolkien movie. And also pronouncing Morgoth as Margoth. He said that more than once. And I don't know if maybe that was really? Like
just an accent thing, maybe.
Well, I don't know if it was that or if they were like trying to like, throw off licensing or something by like having it slightly different. But yeah, what did you think of this one?
I enjoyed it for kind of what it was. My major, maybe I'll save this for later because my major criticism is about the ending. I thought that how was I going to say, like they could have done more with that conceit of the sword tempts you.
Yeah.
I felt the ending was, they spent way too much time retelling the Turin story. They could have cut some of that and just done like a very quick voiceover exposition of who the swords belong to and what its history was, and really focused on our main character here and him struggling of whether to bring this cursed sword back to the High King or to get rid of it. I thought that would have made a really weird supernatural psychological thriller kind of movie, but instead they just cram all that stuff into the last 30 seconds and then the movie ends. So yeah.
Yeah, because the premise here is he's trying to find this sword to bring it back as a kind of like almost like the One Ring. Like it's very similar to that. Like we need the One Ring, we need this legendary item to save the kingdom. And so which was kind of an interesting, like a Middle Earth Indiana Jones type of character, like trying to find a lost artifact. Because it talks about in the film, because this one's only like 12 minutes long, so it's super short. But it talks about how he's going to the last, like where Beleriand, like the last surviving remnant of Beleriand, which is believed to be where the sword was laid, or where the sword is.
Right, and that's a real place in the Legendarium.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. And so it's this, we don't get a name for him, but it's this like scholar guy who's gone on this quest, and he's telling the story, and he basically retells the story of Beleg and Turin, and the story of the sword was first known as Anglakil, which was the, for any Avatar Last Airbender fans, it's the space sword.
It is.
It's a meteorite that no Gandalfs or wizards rode down that we know of on the meteorite and
I was thinking of that.
But it's the sword. It was forged by the dark elf Ael, and kind of, almost like the One Ring, like was put some malice into it, put some of his like bloodthirstiness into it.
They almost imply that he put some of Morgoth's evil into it, because they said, and I don't know how accurate this is to the Legendarium, they said that Ael the dark elf was under the influence of Morgoth, and I'm like, was he? Or was he just a jerk? Like, I couldn't remember I don't remember Tolkien saying explicitly that Ael served Morgoth, but I guess maybe for the conceit of the movie to explain why the sword is cursed, I guess it makes sense. Yeah,
possibly, but yeah, because the sword Anglikill was then reforged later by I forget who reforges it. Is it who's King of Nargothrond during this? I don't remember offhand.
Oh, Nargothrond? They might have said it in the movie.
They might have said it in the movie, but
that would be Orodreth, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, they reforged the sword into Gurthang, and it's taken by Belig, who's trying to find his friend Turin. Turambar has been captured, and as he finds him, he's been captured by orcs, and as he's trying to cut him free, he accidentally cuts him with the sword, and Turin wakes up. And this part was kind of funny. The actor playing Turin was just like woke up looked very angry, like, and then took the sword and killed Belig and realized his mistake.
And then Belig had this like hilarious kind of like this very odd face in death. It didn't look natural.
Yeah. And then of course they then that's about all the action they really show here in this one. Very, very brief, but they show, they say Turin took the sword, and then later, as we will talk about very soon in our discussion of baking the Turambar cookies, he kills the dragon Glaurung with it. And,
who has in this has wings for no reason.
Yeah. And then of course, the bad thing, won't go too much into Turin, but yeah, unfortunately the sword is kind of implied to be like, I have it in my notes, it's like it's the vampire sword, like it has a will of its own in some ways, and even, and I don't remember as much from the book yet because we're not there in our read through, but it definitely has like a will, at least to some extent, and wants
it does, yeah.
It has a doom upon it to, whoever wields it will end up probably upon its blade at one point.
Yeah, in the books, the curse is, I think it's specifically anyone whom Gurthang draws blood on, the sword will eventually kill. That person.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, because then it would have cut him when Belig was trying to free him, and then eventually leads to his own death. But yeah, he does find the sword, but it's as he's telling this tale, like it's like he's realizing like, oh, maybe I shouldn't bring this thing back. But he finds it,
right, because he finds like a skeleton on the ground with the sword in it. So he's like, oh, I killed that guy. So.
Yeah, which I don't know if that was supposed to be Turin or if that was just some random. I don't remember from the story like where Turin's body goes, if it's like buried or.
Yeah, and he mentions it was buried in that monument where he expected to find the sword, and then it wasn't there. So I guess that I just thought that skeleton was somebody else who tried to take it, and
probably so. So yeah, he finds the sword and is about ready to. He picks it up, which is his mistake. And I don't know if it showed him like did it show him cutting himself or something? Or
I don't think so.
Okay, that would have been clever if it showed him like he picks it up and it accidentally like pricks him or something.
Or he's like feeling the edge. He's like, oh, it's still sharp. It cut me.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, but then he accidentally, as he's trying to like leave, he's going to leave the sword, but as he's walking away, he does like the banana peel like type of, banana peel fall, or pratfall, whatever you want to call it. And the sword flies up and and impales him, and you hear this, or I think before that is when the sword like talks to him a little bit, or it's like
right.
kind of like has a little bit of a monologue of, I will seek blood, I'm thirsty, or whatever he says. So
yeah, and at the end it has kind of an ending monologue, this where like, but I thought that like but to me that was the most interesting part of the movie. I'm like, okay, this is like a really cool horror fantasy conceit, and they could have built the whole movie around that instead of giving us Cliff Notes Children of Hurin and then cramming all the interesting stuff at the end.
Yeah, that could have been cool if they'd done that. But yeah, so I mean, overall, it was 12 minutes. Like, I would say it's worth watching. I may go back and give it another watch down the road. Like, definitely. I mean, like I said, the previous one, Halifirien, had some fun moments, but overall, it was kind of like it's a lot of shots of like back and forth between running through the forest and stuff. This one, like, I mean, again, the scenery like looked very cool. Like I think in the credits it said it was on somebody's like estate or something, but like definitely looked like it could be in Middle Earth. So like very similar to Jackson vibes. So anything else on that one before we kind of move on to our final fan film here?
No, I think that's all I had to say on that one.
All right, so like I said, kind of save the best for last of these ones that we watched today. Is the Horn of Gondor, which this one is actually based on, like, pretty much pulled from the Legendarium as an actual story. So it's after the invasion of the fierce hordes of Balkoth, Gondor is on the brink of destruction. The ruling steward Cirion places his hope on the half-forgotten nation of the Horse Lords in the north. Will the knight Boromir succeed in convey Cirion's message? So this one was really good, I thought. And I want to say I think it might have been Paul Leone commented a while back when we did Born of Hope or Hunt for Gollum about this one. It's one we should do.
Oh, was this the one Paul recommended? Okay.
I think so.
I legitimately like this one.
Yeah, this one was really good. And I mean, it was only 20 minutes, but it had like a good mix of action, good mix of like story, good mix of kind of even mythology a little bit, because it starts out, this one was kind of cool. It had the same kind of conceit of a scholar like telling the story of Boromir in this story, because this is before Rohan is founded as a kingdom. It was just kind of the nation of the Horse Lords that was kind of off in their own land and wasn't really interactive with Gondor. And it's basically it's Boromir he's sent out with a company of I forget how many he set off with originally, like 6 or 7, and one by one they're slain and hunted down, and he's and then eventually his horse dies and he makes it to a mountain and is able to he kind of says a prayer to the winds and to Iluvatar in a way and blows the horn, hoping that
specifically to Manwë. He calls the wind the breath of Sulimo, and Sulimo is one of Manwë's titles.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. I didn't catch that. Okay.
Yeah, when I heard that, I started like pointing at the screen. I'm like, yeah,
and do the Leo point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I like that part of it too. That was really cool. Because he's like, and you have the guys hunting him down. It's 2 orcs and a man with, like, I guess an Easterling or whatever he is. Like, has the
I figured he was one of those Balkoth guys.
Yeah, bone earrings, bone nose ring, like all this, like, and the orcs actually look pretty good too, like pretty good makeup and masks and stuff. This one was made in I think 2020s. The other films were the Gurthang was like 2012, and then Halifirien was like in 2007, and I think that's around Born of Hope was filmed too. So it looked like, technology has definitely improved a little bit, I think, and that helped it look just a little bit cleaner.
Oh, I think, and I'm sure some of those wide shots were drone shots.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it looked like they had that too. But yeah, as he blows the horn and is kind of facing these 3 that have been hunting him. And then he's in the fight, and then all of a sudden the Horse Lords of the Aethed appear, and the will of Iluvatar has brought them, and they appear to save him, and they're kind of like, why are you here? And it's almost kind of mirroring the scene of when Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas get into Rohan for the first time in Two Towers, and Amer's like, why are you here in our land or whatever. So it's almost very like a mirror of that scene, I thought.
Yeah, and I thought the acting was really good in this one.
Yeah.
And even the horse, when that horse fell over, I was like, I hope that horse isn't really hurt.
Artax. Like a never-ending story.
Yeah. And that scene where he blows the horn, where he prays to Manwë and blows the horn for I got chills when he blows the horn. That was well done. That was really well done.
Yeah, and of course, and they start questioning, like, why are you here? And he picks up his sword, but instead of, they think he's going to attack, but he, plants it in the ground and kneels and says, they almost say the line from Return of the King of Gondor calls for aid. No, yeah,
he does. He's like, Gondor calls for aid, and then they do the bro handshake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then they tell the story of, they don't really kind of tell what happened. They kind of allude to, that he fought bravely and died in kind of the big battle and everything. They didn't really go into a lot of detail. So I thought it would be, when we're kind of done talking about the film, we can I have his little rest of his story kind of filled out here. But yeah, this one I thought was really good. And like, I can see myself, like, whenever I'm watching, doing my annual rewatch, because I just finished that a couple weeks ago, watching all the movies and kind of adding this to the canon, as it were, of like when I watch, because then it'll be like War of the Rohirrim, and then, or I guess it'll be this and then War of the Rohirrim, and then do the regular films. So this one was really good. I definitely would recommend this one. If you're gonna pick one of these, definitely I would think do this one.
Yeah, like this is one that I'll definitely show my brother next time he's over. I think he'll really like this one. I really recommend it. The makeup is great, costuming is great, the cinematography is great. The fight scenes were also really well done.
Yeah.
Very kinetic, very, believable as fight scenes. That the big Easterling guy, though, at the end, as soon as I saw because at one point he basically kicks our Dunedain guy off a cliff. He survives, but he's laying almost dead. But as soon as that Easterling guy goes down and he doesn't have a weapon, I'm like, fool, you didn't take a weapon. You don't know if he's really dead or not. And he's like, it's okay, I've got this rock. Because he picks up a rock to, smash the guy with. But as soon as he didn't take a weapon down there, I'm like, you're dead.
Yeah. Yeah. And overall it had really good production. Of course it's a fan film, so I give it a pass, but I did kind of laugh during the dialogue of between Boromir and I guess it's supposed to be Eorl the Young. During their dialogue, there was a little bit of like the audio wasn't really synced up with the actors were.
I was like, did they dub? Like, what happened?
Well, I mean, I think you always have to do that in a lot of movies, especially in like ones like this where you don't have like the highest quality mics and stuff.
Right. But I was wondering if they dubbed because like the actors weren't native English speakers or something, or was it just because it wasn't synced up right?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but it was kind of funny, like because he's fighting them, and like all of a sudden you see like because you see three horsemen, but then in the far background you see what looks like more horse and men, but they kind of have to keep it low budget, so you don't really, at least to me, it looked like they were kind of like, it was some kind of effect of like keeping, they probably like copied them and pasted them in a line across the forest, but kind of obscured them in the shadows and such. But yeah, this one was good. Like, no like complaints or anything about it, but I thought we could finish this one just by kind of discussing what Borondir's, the rest of his story is, which we've kind of touched on in our Rohan episode, but yeah, this one they didn't really have the red arrow as they do in the actual story, but he was part of a company that set out with the red arrow and a stone bearing the seal of the stewards of Gondor, and rode north to try to find the Rohan. And he was the only one who survived, and after 15 days without food, he finally came to Eorl, and delivered the message despite being, near death. And he decided to ride, after recovering and giving the message, he rode with Eorl to war, and he was part of the Battle of the Field of Celebrant, which is where Rohan does save Gondor. And then, basically he's wounded to death in battle, but he's kind of becomes a legend of Gondor and is laid to rest in the Hallows of Minas Tirith. So I don't know if you had any other thoughts or anything to say on Borodir.
No, but I had one interesting thing I noticed in the beginning during the opening sort of exposition thing where there's that scholar like looking through. He mentions the reign of King Elessar, which is Aragorn. So technically the beginning of the whole movie is a flashback, and the beginning of the movie is in the Fourth Age. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, he's like, this took place centuries before the reign of King Elessar. I'm like, wow. Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, that kind of wraps up our fan film discussions. But I had one other fun question here, and I didn't really come up with any answers, but maybe I'll think of something here while we're talking. But if you could make a Tolkien fan film, what would it be, Thomas? If you had any ideas, like some kind of short or fan film or something, because we of course talked about our what things we would love to see that are like big budget and big productions, but like if there was like a small story or something that would kind of be a fan film, lend itself to a fan film, did you have anything you would want to make into a film? Something just occurs to me right now. A slice of life film about Tom Bombadil and Goldberry would be pretty fun. Just like a day in the life, Well,
yeah, you could almost make you could make the chapter in the House of Tom Bombadil, that could be a short film, and you could slot it into someone can edit that into Lord of the Rings as its own, and as kind of a special edit there. But yeah, that would be really cool, because I like a lot of what happens in the House of Tom and you can do the Barrow White thing too. Yeah. For me, I really couldn't come up with anything that I would want to be a short film or something, but of course it always comes back to me with the Shire and the Green Dragon and the Hobbits, and I was thinking something a day in the life of the Green Dragon, you have or you have the events of happening in Lord of the Rings, but it's from the perspective of the bar owners, and and Rose Cotton could be one of your central characters too, and kind of seeing and hearing about these events through their eyes, which we did talk about. There's that short film, what was it called, the Peril of the Shire or something. So maybe that's what that one's about. I don't know. but yeah, there's a couple more fan films, so there are more that we can review down the road. Like I said, there was that Wings of Arda one, which sounded interesting, but I thought that would be good to wait until we're a little bit closer to finishing our read through of the Silmarillion. But yeah, awesome. Well, I think before we go, we do have a little bit of feedback. So yeah, short and sweet episode tonight, but just wanted to get something out to for those wanting the turn bar cookies. We're still baking them. They'll be coming to you soon. So, so for some feedback on our last episode of the last episode that came out, Dragons, we have Tammy, our friend, saying, "This episode inspired me to get out my copy of A Middle-earth Traveler by John Howe and take another look at the chapter on the dragons. If you haven't seen this book, I can't recommend it highly enough. It always makes me want to drop everything and get to sketching. There's some great art of Turin fighting Glaurung, as well as Bard the Bowman taking aim at Smaug and Lake Town in ruins. I can only imagine that the artists who designed the dragons in Game of Thrones must have taken inspiration from these images, particularly those of Smaug." Have you read that book or ever looked at that? I've never heard of that one. Okay.
Yes, I've got A Middle-earth Traveler. I've also got the Hobbit sketchbook and the Lord of the Rings sketchbook, which are both very similar. to A Middle-earth Traveler. They're both by they're also by an artist who worked on the films, and lots of great sketch art, which I love, and getting to see all the like little world building stuff that it shows too, like there's in one of those books there's like a whole 2-page spread of like dwarven instruments. And it's like, like of how different they look compared to like the instrument, like how dwarven manufacture looks different from like the other free peoples and stuff. So it's like they're able to show off these like little details. And yeah, the dragon section of Middle-earth Traveler is really cool. So is the Mirkwood section. Really creepy.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I think, after our last episode of The Artists, I think we talked about doing more episodes on that, on the art, and definitely some episodes on other artists who who drew Middle Earth and painted and stuff. I think that would be cool. But yeah, to go back to Tammy's feedback, I watched Sleeping Beauty last night and agree. It's excellent and beautiful. I don't think I'd seen it since the late 70s and was surprised and delighted to find it really did hold up over time. Ooh, Maleficent is still scary and the dragon scene is a wow. And P.S. Oh no, I see those turn bar cookies looming. So yeah, they're coming, everyone. Yeah, that was kind of several comments that she had kind of put together. So yeah, thanks, Tammy. As always, we love your feedback, and send us your recipe for turn bar cookies. Would love to hear it and try them out. So, and then we had a comment from Madison G, who said, "Thanks for the fantastic episode on dragons. This topic was a fun coincidence for me since I've been working on a drawing project about dragons for art school. During your discussion, I was struck by the fact that Bilbo did not catch dragon sickness despite his possession of the mithril coat, which probably made up a good amount of the total worth of the Smaug's hoard. I think this was because Bilbo valued friendship above riches and because of Thorin's act of giving the coat away. I wonder if Thorin's generosity had power to overcome some of the greedy aura of the hoard, similar to how a vice can be conquered by practicing the opposite virtue. Thanks again for the great episode." But of course, we know the mithril combated the sickness because it's the thing that will keep the elves from dying, and the thing that will. I just saw your face falling as I was saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to bring it back to our favorite rings of power sometimes, but. Yeah, and Pat wasn't here, so in his stead, just to say it one more time, I think he would love to see a dwarf elven romance short film. So that one's for you, Pat.
Short film? We got 3 whole 3-hour movies about it.
Less than half of what I hoped for. All right. Well, I think if we're joking about this again, I think that's probably a sign to
that it's over.
Sign to say goodbye. So that'll be it for this episode of The Secrets of Middle Earth. We'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make this show possible, including Barbara J, Rock K, Pierre M, Carolyn S, and Stephanie L. Their generous donations help us to continue to create The Secrets of Middle Earth and all the shows at StarkWest. You can join them at sqpn.com/give. Now, we'd love to hear from you, our listeners. Have you seen these fan films? If so, what did you think of them? If you made a short or a fan film, what would it be of? You can let us know on our Facebook page or on Twitter, or by sending an email to middleearth@sqpn.com, by leaving us a comment on YouTube, or by visiting our channel in the StarkWest Discord community at sqpn.com/discord. We have a lot of fun over there talking about turn bar cookies, and if you have any art that you've made, Madison or anyone else, feel free to share it there. But until then, join us next time for another episode discussing Middle Earth, hopefully over bacon the turn bar cookies. So until then, thank you, Thomas, for joining me and sharing the secrets of Middle Earth.
Oh, thank you so much, Jeff. This is great.
You're welcome. And I'm Jeff Haecker. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Middle Earth on StarkWest.
Here's another show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy. PlayStation Portable. Find it wherever fine podcasts are found, or at starquest.fm/ PSP.